Good evening, stamping friends. I'm Dorene Decibus from It Begins with Ink and Paper, and welcome to Fun Fold Friday. Thank you for joining me tonight, either on the live or on the replay on my Facebook channel, or of course on my YouTube channel. Let me just get this to be a little straighter. There we go. So tonight we are going to do a really fun fold. I'm excited to show it to you, and I think you're going to enjoy it too. It's going to look complicated, but I promise you it's not too hard. We're going to be using the Perennial Lavender Suite, which includes these two bundles, the Painted Lavender stamp set with coordinating dies, and the Perennial Postage stamp set or bundle with the matching dies as well. So this set is full of greetings, which is definitely something we need. And the dies are like postage stamps, but in all different shapes. Pretty cool. And you have 10 different sentiments in this. And with the Painted Lavender set, it is all just lavender plants and greenery and things to go with it, butterflies. So it's a really nice spring floral stamp set. So very excited to make a project with this tonight for you. And let me just get my camera just a little straighter. So tonight we are going to be making something called a double swing fun fold. I told you last week about an online stamping retreat I went to 2 weeks ago, and we learned some incredible fun folds. And so this is another fun fold that I learned at this retreat. And so I want to show you, this is my template I made, and just make sure I've got my light shining well. So this is the template I made, and it opens up like this, and you see the double swinging part of the fold. This is a larger card, so you'd either need to make an envelope for it, or you would need to buy a larger envelope at the store. It measures 5 by 6, and I can make a smaller version of this, and I might in a week or two, maybe even next Friday. But I wanted to make the larger one because I think it's easier to see all the mechanisms and how they work with this card. So that's our template. I always start when I'm making a new fun fold by using a template. And making it with the template first, just so I can see how it works. So this is tonight's card. Isn't that beautiful? I love this. Like I said, I love this suite. It is just great. So this is the front. I could also send it in the envelope like this, which gives it an entirely different look. But you can see we're going to be using lots of designer series paper on this. And when we open it up, this is what we get on the inside of the card. So there's some stamping. If I start to turn this side over, you can see that there's some die cutting here. And then if I close it, you get back to the front. So let's get started so you can see how to make this. I'm just going to set that aside. We've got lots of things that we need, lots of parts for this. So let's start with the base of the card. So the base of the card, you're going to, and we've got lots of designer series paper here. So for the base of the card, you are going to need a piece of 6 by 11 cardstock. And I'm using the gorgeous Grape cardstock. So I'm going to set that aside. We're going to be doing a lot of cutting and scoring on this. And I'll go through it really slow so that you will be able to follow right along. You'll also need a scrap of basic white. I just took a quarter sheet. I'm going to be doing my stamping and die cutting on this sheet. I've already done, and you're going to need a scrap of the the Gorgeous Grape cardstock too to do some of your stamping. So you are going to need 2 different designs of 5 inches by 6 inches of the Perennial Lavender Designer Series paper. I chose these 2 designs. We're going to be cutting this, and I did one of the cuts pre. I'm going to show you how to cut it on this, but you will need 2 pieces of this, and you will use the inside to cut the other pieces. So we'll put those down. You are going to need 4 pieces of a third design of the Designer Series paper. It has a really bold image on the back and a gingham print on the other side, and these measure 3 7/8 by 3 7/8. You are going to need 2 pieces of basic white cardstock that measure 3 by 3, and that's what we'll be stamping on for the inside. And then let me just line all of this up so you can see what we've got here. So for the Designer Series paper, and some of this is cut from the scraps, some of this I needed to cut from another piece of the Designer Series paper. So I have 2 pieces here that measure 4 by 1 inch. I then have 4 pieces, so I have 2 of each. So 2 of the purple and 2 of the more crumb cake. These measure 1 by 3 inches. Okay? Then you're going to see that I have 4 pieces of the purple. And let me just go grab the other one. It's over here. Here we go. And this measures 1 inch by 1.5 inches. And then I have 4 pieces of the more crumb cake Designer Series print that also measure 1 inch by 1.5 inches. So your 2 pieces of 5 by 6 paper, you're going to cut the middle out, cut as much of this out as you can. I got the 3 inches with no problem. And then you're going to cut the other pieces because this is going to decorate the whole frame on the inside and the outside. And then finally, you need a piece that is 1 inch by 2 3/4 inches. And that's going to go on the front of our card. So as you can see, we have a lot of Designer Series paper here. So I'm going to start, I think, let's just get our stamping out of the way. So I die cut using the Perennial postage die cuts, one of the stamp labels. And in Gorgeous Grape, I am going to stamp a sentiment on here, and it's the Big Hugs sentiment. So I'm just going to make sure I get that all inked up, and I'm going to stamp this right over on the side and in the corner. So there we go. We've got our Big Hugs. And then on this piece, I am going to be stamping the larger flower. So I don't know how well you can see that because it's clear. There you go. That, I think, shows it a little better. I am going to use the Gorgeous Grape again, and I'm going to stamp this in full strength, and then I'm going to stamp it one more time without inking it back up. So I get the same image, but I get 2 different variations of the ink. So I get a much lighter pattern and the darker pattern. Move that aside. Oh, now I'm going to keep my Gorgeous Grape out. I'm going to set that aside for just a minute, and I'm going to take my 2 pieces of basic white that measure 3 by 3, and I am going to stamp in both corners. So if you remember, this was on the inside of the card, and I'm going to stamp it in full strength one there. And then I'm going to have it coming from the other direction on the other side. This is going to give us enough room, or a little bit of room. We can add more, we can write in other places if we need to. But this is going to give us some room to write a little message. And then this is going to be a thank you card. And I am going to stamp my thank you right up here. There you go. So that is all the stamping I'm going to do in the gorgeous grape. So now I'm going to take out my shaded spruce, and I chose the shaded spruce, because it is one of the colors in the designer series paper. And on my piece where I'm doing my die cutting, because I have to have room to die cut that die, I'm going to stamp a stem that the flowers are going to be attached to. So there we go with that. With my die cut machine, I can use either the mini or the regular size. I then have cut out the flowers, the stem, and 3 pieces of some stems and blooms out of the gorgeous grape. So let's get this part here done while we have this. And I'm, going to wait to do this part later. So I'm going to take my 2 floral images and my stem, that's right here, and I'll use these for another project. I am going to attach the darker purple over the lighter purple like that. So I'm just going to add some adhesive to the back part of this one. And I'm just going to attach them over each other. So that's what my image looks like. And then I'm going to take the stems and I am going to just put some adhesive on the stem itself. And I know I want this to fit along the front. So of this 3 by 7/8 square. So I am going to want to put this on, making sure it's going to fit on this piece of designer series paper. There we go. And then this is going to be attached to this, like that. So I'm going to add some adhesive to the back. And I'm going to attach that. I want to still be able to read the big hugs. Got a little bit on the back, but that's okay because it's all, I'm not going to use dimensionals for this. I'm going to put this flat down. And then what I'm going to do is I did tie a ribbon, and I don't really want to hide the big hugs. So I think I'm going to make this a little smaller to start with. Just did the pre-tying because it's easier to tie when I'm not doing this on camera, as I've said before. So I'm going to make this just a little smaller because, as I said, I don't want to hide the big hugs. And let me just grab my scissors to trim this. And I think, oh, that's going to be a lot better. So that will fit right on it without hiding the big hugs. It's nice to get our stamping done right away. So I'm going to add a glue dot to the back of this. And this is going to go here. And we can still see our big hugs. So that's our label for the front. The only other thing we have to do is take our, this is going to go over it to give it a little purple in the back. So now I'm going to just take this and put it right in the middle because I'm going to be centering this on that piece. So let me just make sure I have it where I want it to be. That looks good. And so this is our main focal piece for the front of the card. And so let me just show that to you a little closer so you can see it. Looks great. I'm going to set that aside for now. And now let's do some scoring and cutting. So I'm going to just set all of this aside. And I'm going to get out my paper trimmer. Now, as I said, when I showed you the template, it might look a little tricky, but it's really not. So I'm just going to put this under here, and I want to show you again where I added that piece of sticky strip right down the length of my bar on my paper cutter. It really allows me to see these measurements clearly, and I'm going to need that for what I'm going to be doing today. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to need my arm out, so let me just get that out right now so it is ready to go. And when we get to the arm, I'll bring it down a little bit so that you can see what I'm doing clearly. So the first thing I'm going to do is a cut on both sides, and I'm going to come in 1 inch to make that cut. So I have a 1 inch mark right here on the right side of my trimmer, and I'm going to be putting that right up to that. And I'm going to be making this cut from 1 inch to 5 inch. So on our paper trimmer, it has a little mark here in the middle. I'm going to line that up with the 1 inch, and I'm going to cut the cardstock down to the 5 inch mark. And I'm going to pick that up. I have my cut right here on that side so that you can see it. And then I'm going to turn the page, turn the card piece around, and go to the other side, and I'm going to make that exact same cut. So this time I'm going to go from the 5 inches up to the 1 inch. Okay, there we go. We've got our first 2 cuts. And now what I'm going to do is move my paper to the 5 inch mark. So right here, let me just move this over a little bit. I'm going to move this to the 5 inch mark, bring my arm down, and again, I'm going to be cutting from 1 inch to 5 inches. There we go. I'm going to now move to the 6 inch piece mark on my paper cutter, and I'm going to do the same thing. This time I'll go up from 5 inches to 1 inch. So now I have made kind of the base for the card. I've got a cut at 1 inch from 1 to 4, at 5 inches from 1 to 4, at 6 inches from 1 to 4, and then I flipped the card and did 1 inch again in from 1 to 5 inches. So I have that 4-inch line. All right, now what I'm going to do while I have this in, I'm going to be doing some scoring, and I am done with, am I done? No, I'm not. So I'm going to do some scoring, and I am going to be scoring down about 1 inch. So I'm going to come from the top, go down, I'm going to come from the bottom and go up. And so I'm going to put my cutting tool up at the top and bring my scoring tool in. And I am going to start by moving to the 2.5 inch point. Now, here's what I want to tell you with the scoring. We're going to be covering everything up. So if you go over the inch, it is okay, because everything is going to be covered with that designer series paper. So I'm going to go down to about 1 inch, and I'm going to just do that a couple times to make it a nice score mark. I'm going to come down to the bottom. I'm going to go to the 5-inch mark, and I am going to do that same scoring for about 1 inch. Then I'm going to move from 2.5 inches to 4 inches. There we go. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to come down about 1 inch. But again, I am not going to lose any sleep if I go over that inch a little bit, because it's all going to be covered up. And now I'm going to do the same thing at the 5-inch mark, and I'm going to make my score line there. Okay, so that was the 4-inch. Now I'm going to move into my 7 inches. So here I'm going to go to 7 inches. I'm going to bring this up again, and I'm going to make my mark down my score line just from 0 to 1. And then I'm going to come down here and do the same from 5 to 6. All right. And then I'm going to move to my 8.5 inch mark. So I need that arm out. And I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to go from 0 to 1. And I know you can't see that perfectly. Try to bring it down a little more, kind of moving it as I'm going along. And then I'm going to come down here from 5 inches to 6 inches and do the same thing. So, to kind of recap, we've done our cuts. Now I have a 1-inch score mark at 2.5 at the top and the bottom, at 4 inches at the top and the bottom, at 7 inches at the top and the bottom, and at 8.5 at the top and the bottom. All I need to do now to make my flip pieces is I need to make a cut from this mark here, 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 and here, and do the same thing on the bottom. So now we're going to go in. I'm going to come to my 1-inch side. Nope, I was going to stay right like, yes, coming into my 1-inch side. So I'm going to come in at 1 inch, and I am going to bring, we're going to go from that 1-inch point in. So I'm going to come in 1 inch. So make sure that's on my 1 inch. And I'm going to cut down to 2.5. So I'm going to go to 2.5. And again, if it goes over a little bit, it's okay. So I have that cut going here for that corner. Then I'm going to go back and keep it on the 1-inch mark. And I'm now going to go to my 4-inch mark. And I'm going to go only to the 5-inch spot. So where that cut is. And then I'm going to continue going down a little bit. And remember, if I go over or if I'm a little off, it's okay. It's going to all be covered. So I'm going to go to my 6-inch mark next. And I'm going to score to 7 inches. And then I'm going to go to my 8.5 inch mark. and score to 10 inches. There we go. So the top part is all done. You can see I've got to trim a little bit, and I can do that with my scissors where I might not have come all the way. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put this on the 1 inch mark, and then we'll have all of our scoring and cutting done. All right. So I'm coming right back up here. I'm going to do the same thing, going to my 1 inch mark, and I'm going to cut to my 2.5 inch mark. I'm going to pick that up, and I'm going to go to my 4 inch mark, and I'm going to cut to my 5 inch mark. There we go. And then I'm going to pick this up, go to 6 inches, and cut to, oops, I got a little crooked there. That is going to make a little bit of a problem. So let me go back here, go to 4 and 5. I'll fix that when I cover it up. And then I'm going to go to 6 and 7. And then I'm going to go to my 8.5. And I'm going to go to 10. Okay, so you can see that we had a little mess up right here, but it's all going to be covered. So I'm not going to worry about that. So now all the cutting and scoring is done. The good thing about this video is you can pause it, and you can pause it anytime you need to watch me do those cutting and scoring marks. So I'm going to start by just doing a little folding, and this will allow me, if I don't have something, my cut lines aren't matching, I can fix that. And the same thing over here. There we go. Just to get these to open up. Now, as I showed you with my first template, it's going to close like this. So if you can see, it's the inside, that uppercase I. You can see that we have a mountain fold there. So for my uppercase I, this is going to fold in this way. And I'm going to use my bone folder to just give it a really nice crease. So that's going to go like that to turn this the other way. And then this is going to do the same thing. So give it a nice crease. And that's going to help with our folding. And let me get this side. Remember, with a fun fold, it is pretty essential to make sure you grease, burnish your edges really well. And so now, when I have it open like this, I can, let me just show you on this one again, because it's cut a little better. This piece folds over to here, and this piece folds over to here. So I'm going to fold this piece over there, and then this piece. Why is it not folding for me? Oh, I have it going folding the wrong way. That's why. Let me, there we go. Now we'll be able to fold this the way it's supposed to be folded. And we have that flip fold. So let's start decorating it. Okay, so I'm going to show you how we're going to do that cutting. So I'm going to set this just over here. I'm going to put the bone folder on it to hold it flat. And I'm going to take those two larger pieces of paper. And they are both cut by 5 by 6. And what I want to do is cut the inside of this. So I'm going to go to my 1 inch measurement again. And I am going to start at 1 inches. And I'm going to cut down to 5. Then I'm going to turn this around, do the same thing on this side, but I'm going to this time start at 5, make sure my paper is exactly where it needs to be. We'll start on 5, and we're going to go up to the 1 inch. Then I'm going to turn it to its side and go in 1 inch again, come to 1 inch, but this time I'm going to go 1 to 4. And then I'm going to flip it around to the other side, and I am going to go from 4 to 1. And if we did that correctly, this piece should come right out. And then I'm going to use this to cut those pieces. Okay. Now, the reason I'm doing this way is that I don't want a lot of, on my front of my card, I don't want a lot of little pieces filling everything in. So this measures, as I said before, 5 inches across. So I'm going to go to 2.5, and I'm going to cut this in half. So I have my 2 pieces for the front. I'm going to do the same thing with my other piece that I already cut the middle out of, and go to 2.5 and cut this in half. So I have it for the other side. Okay, we are ready to start decorating this card. All right, so on this first side, I am going to be putting these pieces right here on the outside. And on this inside, this piece right here, I am going to be putting a piece of the piece of Designer Series paper. And I want to center this onto that flap. So let's get some adhesive so we can do that. So I'm going to start with those inside pieces. So there's our adhesive. And I'm going to line this up, knowing it's about 1/8 of an inch. So I'll know where I want to put it in this, because we want to see some purple. There we go. There's that first piece. Part of this frame covers it up, so you see a smaller piece. Then I'm going to go to this piece over here and do the same thing and put that piece of Designer Series paper and do exactly the same thing. Now, I don't usually put adhesive on all 4 sides, but because this is going to be flapping and flipping around, and I've got this little extra cut here, if you remember from the mistake I made, I am going to put a little extra adhesive here so I can cover up my mistake, hopefully. And if I don't cover it up, I am going to cut it off, but we'll see how I can do with covering it, which I don't know if it's going to work or not, because I need to bring this piece. No, this looks good, but I'm still probably going to have to cut that off. Okay, so there's our 2 sides for our front. Now I'm going to open these up onto the back, and I am going to put our pieces on. I just really, really love this paper. Now, I'm going pretty slow as I'm demonstrating how to make this card. After you've made one, you're going to find that you can make it pretty quickly. It doesn't, I did the measuring pretty slow to make sure you could see it. But I think once you'll find that it's not as hard as it looks once you try it once. Try it with a scrap piece of paper, so if you make any mistakes, you'll know, you'll have, it's just a scrap. I use paper that has been retired. It's a good thing to use. You can also use, copy paper. So now when I go to close this, we're going to have these sides flipping over, and you can see what we see on both sides now. So we see this section overlapping, and this section here, you just see what's going to be the front. So while this is closed, I am going to put these two pieces on the front. So again, I'm going to put a little extra adhesive so that it's going to adhere really well, and amongst all of the flipping and flopping, and it's going to stay in place. Of course, when you put this much adhesive on, then it kind of sticks to your fingers. Now, when you're putting this much adhesive on, and you might not want to put this much adhesive on, but if you do, here is the trick. You want to make sure you are putting this on so it's going to be even, because this is not something with this much adhesive that you're going to want to be having to put on again or take it off, because there's a lot of adhesive here, and it's going to rip like that little piece there, but I can fix it. What I should have done, and maybe I'll do this on the other one, you're going to have some wiggle room if you use the glue. And you won't have to worry about this. But there we go. We've got our first one on. We'll try the second one with our glue, because it will give us that wiggle room, and we won't have to worry about it sticking. So if you're joining me tonight, make sure you say a hello in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. Give me some feedback on this fold, what you think. So I'm just going to be adding a little bit of glue. Remember, a little bit goes a long way. I don't want this glue seeping out. Okay. So then I'm going to make sure I'm holding it the right way, and I'm ready to put it on this side of our card. So let me just bring this up. Okay. So this is where you have that wiggle room, and look at how much easier it went on with this. So definitely use the white glue on that part. Okay, so there's the front of our card, and now I can add this piece right here. I want to center it on my front of the card. So I'm not going to center it on this piece where it would look more like that. And then when we close it, you'd be missing most of the greeting and it'd look off-centered. Have the card closed and then attach this then. So I'm going to add some adhesive to the back of this. And then let's bring it back to the middle, and let's just center this on. There we go. Looks beautiful, doesn't it? Love that. All right, we'll decorate with some gems afterwards. But now what we have to do is, if we open this up again, we have these inside pieces. So this one is going to go here. This one's going to go here, and that's what the inside of our card's going to look like. This is just one of those cards that is definitely a big wow that I think the recipient is really going to love. So let's just make sure this is even with the card beside it. All right, so we have that. Now, over here, we are going to, and I want to just, so I want it on this side over here. I'm going to use my liquid glue again, and we're going to add these little pieces. And then we're going to put our other design of designer series paper on, because it's nice and flat over here right now. I love cards that it shows that you've put some effort in to making it, and your recipient really can tell. I've told the story before of my brother who decides at Christmas who I love the most based on the layers of my cards. So I have to count layers when I make my Christmas cards for if we're getting together as a family, because he will check. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to get together at Christmas as a family in way too long. My brother was in Vienna for the last several years. Okay, so I'm going to start with this piece going off to the left like that, and then I'm going to put each of these on either side of it. This is just coming out so pretty. Now, the person who was demonstrating this and teaching us how to do it, she actually used the Enduring Beauty stamp and decorated and had a nice large front decoration on the card. And she used the Sunny Days Designer Series paper. And her card was just beautiful. I'm going to try to make it. But I always try to make one of my own design to use when I'm learning a new design as well. So I'm going to match my stems at the bottom. And now we have 2 on. And then I'm going to match the stem again for this. And have it go to the left. So that one went to the right, and next we're going to go to the left. You don't have to put a dot everywhere, but I want to have some in the middle, some at the bottom, and some at the top. All right. So again, I'm going to match the bottom of the stems and bring this out. And now we have that beautiful bouquet of purple flowers. Okay, so this is going to go here, and this is going to go here. So I'm going to learn from my lesson and use the white glue for this. So at school this week we had Spirit Week. We're on vacation next week, which I'm so grateful for. I teach in the middle school science to 5th grade, and it's their first year in the middle school. And they were just so excited about Spirit Week. They just couldn't believe the things that we did and that they got to participate in. And we had yesterday the grade level games, and my little guys were like so excited about the tug of war. And they got to the finals in the tug of war. They didn't win the tug of war, but they came in a very close second. And the team that beat them in the tug of war, they got to buy the first round. So they only had to compete twice, where my kiddos had to compete 3 times. So I kept telling them that they were just so awesome with how they did, because they had to go against 3 teams where the winner only had to go against 2 teams. So they weren't as tired out as my kiddos were, but they just had so much fun with those grade level games. Okay, so now let's get the rest of these pieces. This is going to go right here in the middle. So I'm just going to tuck those sides in, and we'll just use, I could use the Stampin' Seal for this part, but I got the glue out, so let's just finish up with using the glue. So this is going to go in this middle section right here. And then we have the top and the bottom of the 1 by 3 inch piece. And I will say, I did find when making my sample that I had to cut a little edge off. It's probably not even a 1/16 of an inch, just so that it didn't overlap over the score lines. I made my team t-shirts, my advisory t-shirts, and oh, they had fun with that too. So it was a fun-filled, powerful, busy, hectic week at our school, and we all need a vacation after that. Okay, we are getting to the end of this, and I know this is one of my longer videos, but this card is definitely worth it. So if you've stuck around from the beginning, thank you. Oops, I forgot to trim this a little bit. So let's do that right now. There we go. Okay, and now we just have those 4 tiny pieces to go on this side, and just a little bit to do on the other side, and this card will be done. If you have everything, you know, cut and ready, it won't take long to get it all assembled once you know what you are doing. So we'll take these for the little pieces. I like a finished look on my cards, so that's why I'm doing both sides. You wouldn't have to. You could just do the end pieces here and have it a solid color, whatever your card base is. I just liked having the designer series paper on both sides. I just felt it looked really finished and nicely, you know, a nice presentation. No matter how you looked at the card, it had some beautiful designer series paper. I like having cards that can really show off the designer series paper, because I tend to hoard designer series paper. So it's good for me to have a way to use a lot of it on a card. And this one, I think I just need to do a little trimming too. You'll know if you need to trim it based on when you're putting it down. I could have made these 7/8 instead of an inch, and there would have been a border, which would have looked nice too. So here's the back side of our card. Now I'm going to go to this side of the card. It does give you an idea of what it looks like if I leave it purple, which would be just as pretty. But because I did the other side, I'm going to do this side as well. So it's the same measurements, the same pieces that we're just going to add. But as you can see, you would definitely shorten the amount of time that it takes to put this card together if you used the, if you didn't put designer series paper in this middle section. So just a little hint there as well. But it is so much fun to have it on the inside. So I hope you try this card. If you're watching on my Facebook page, I would love to see if you try it, that you put a picture of your card in the comments so that everyone can see what your design looks like. Makes it a lot of fun when we can share our ideas with each other. I think the next one I make with the pieces that I just cut out, I think I'll leave the middle part purple and see how that looks and compares with the other side. Let me just trim this just a little. There we go. 2 more to the left, and then we'll just put some bling on the front. Every time I use this stamp set and designer series paper with the beautiful butterfly stamp in there, makes me think to add some of our brass butterflies to the front of the card. I'm going to just cut a little piece off this one. And there we go. Okay, so I will say we've got a lot of cardstock on here. When I close these up, and I want to make sure nothing is holding anything back. There we go. So when we go to close this, we're going to want this piece to turn in like that, and this piece, so that's going to turn in, and then this piece is going to turn to the back. It gets so thick. There we go. That is, make sure everything's bending the right way. So we have this front piece. Oh, it's not bending here. There we go. There we go. There we go. All right, so this is the front of our card. Just going to give it another little piece. And then I'm just going to take some of my brass butterflies, and I'm just going to put some of these on the front of the card. So I'm going to start with a little one right here and put it right up there, and maybe put another little one right here. So on this inside piece, we're going to have 2 little ones, and then I'm going to take some of the larger ones and put on the front of the card. I like to do things in odd numbers, so I think I'm going to do 5 altogether. So we'll have 3 big ones and 2 small ones. Let me just get that up again, and let's see, we've got one there. I think I will put the other one right there. Okay, and that's our finished fold for tonight. So again, it is called a double swing card. So we've got that swinging mechanism, and then they fold over. So that is the look of our card. And you've got this side, and then this side, of course, that your recipient can see. And it does stand up. So let me just get that in the middle so it does stand up. So you can stand it up on a mantle. So thank you so much for joining me on this Friday, February 23rd. Please feel free to join me Sunday night for Simply Stamping Sunday. I'm going to be using our same stamp set and paper, and I'm going to be showing you a one sheet wonder, and we'll be making 5 cards from that. So please join me Sunday night at 7, and of course I'll be back next Friday night for another fun fold. Good night, everyone. Have a great weekend and a great week. Good night.